And welcome once again to another Geek Salad Retro Record Review. I'm Andy.
I'm Joe.
I'm Todd.
I'm Jim.
And this week we are going to make up for missing last week by not discussing just one, but two classic albums from the year 1991, both celebrating their 30th anniversary this year. Todd's got them. Pearl Jam's 10 and Nirvana's Baby Penis.
Yeah, I know Jim won't have anything to say about Pearl Jam 10.
Not at all.
Nothing at all.
Let me just tell you a little something about my record collection. My best friend Jim here gave me Pearl Jam because he got a more deluxe copy of it.
No, I got a purple copy of it.
You got a purple? Was it purple vinyl or was it
purple? What else? What else would it be?
Well,
purple cracker meal.
That you like the
Transparent purple.
No, it's the Target deluxe version.
Oh, okay.
It's not deluxe. It's the same thing. It's just purple. I had two of them sitting there. I'm like, what am I going to do with it?
I appreciate that.
Although Todd, I do still have your copy of Zeppelin 4 that I said I would give to you.
That is exciting. Thank you.
I mean, honestly, I don't know if I should do that or if I should have my accountant call you because
I've awakened something in you.
I am down with the sickness now. I am down with this. It is. What do I got coming? Oh, I got a Foo Fighters record day only. It's called Medium Rare, and it's two. What is it? 2 discs of covers.
Wow,
That's awesome.
Does that have Band on the Run on it?
It does, and it has Baker Street.
Oh, yeah.
It does. It's got Down in the Park by Gary.
Where'd you get it?
Oh, that's an eBay.
Oh, I guess I'm gonna have to start scouring then.
Yeah.
It was less than I expected, so I did buy it. Right now, I'm looking at my Pearl Jam live at Benaroya Hall in orange vinyl.
Brilliant. Great album.
Nice.
It is a very good album. It is not easy to find, but I did get it for a pretty good price.
I remember when you let us know about that. Yeah, I just I ordered through eBay Sting's double live album Bring On the Night, which was a big favorite of mine when I was younger on cassette.
I remember that
long cassette.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I found it on vinyl for like $25 and free shipping on eBay. So, yay!
You are all so welcome.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Welcome to my world. It is ridiculous. I found something that's been on my list for a good 8 years.
Oh my God!
Ooh.
Where'd you get that?
Amazon, part of the 2 for 3, 3 for 2, whatever that was.
Wow.
3 for 2.
Oh, I haven't even looked at that.
So
I would talk myself into getting so much stuff. I can't do it.
Well, this week I did get my first purchased vinyl.
Yeah,
Okay.
that went well, huh?
Oh yeah, that went perfect. So
at least they refunded you. You know,
Well,
refunded me, and he refunded me, and he let me keep the LP. So it wasn't all bad. I just gotta get another copy now. I gotta have a sleeve. I gotta have one with a good sleeve.
Yeah.
but now you can mix and match. You know,
The good copy will be my display copy. The other one will be the one I play all the time.
Yeah.
Next to your
Sure.
Fabergé eggs or something.
Joe, did you happen to find any more albums that would make Jim's head explode, or have
Not yet.
just come
I
up
haven't
to
been
you with
in
a wet
yet.
rag going, "Hey, Joe, does this smell like chloroform to you?"
It's been too cold. It's been too cold to go up into the attic lately.
Okay. Fair enough. I'm thinking that once all this is over, I'm going to talk to my dad and see if he's kept any of his records. Because if anybody has got a record collection that would not fit the type of person my dad is now, it's my dad's record collection. Because there was so much Grateful Dead on there. And I think that's where all the good stuff really went.
Well, you know what? I know I'm going to go to my dad's record collection, and I know the music is going to be the music that you think he'd listen to. I mean, if you want an original pressing of the singing of the Edmund Fitzgerald, he's going to have it.
Yep.
Apparently, my mother was telling me that they have a copy of the We're the Kennedys on vinyl. It's from like '62, and it's, Jack Kennedy talking and the, little John saying, yeah, singing happy birthdays. Apparently it's worth some money. Now it's been up in the attic so I can't imagine it's in the best of shape.
No.
No.
I do know he does have a copy of Santana's Abraxas, which I would like to get my hands on.
Nice.
That'd be a good one.
Yeah, I know my dad had, I'm hoping he still has it, the original pressing of The Who's Tommy. And most of my mother's records, for the most part, they look great, they sound great, covered in a thin layer of mildew because they've been sitting in her basement for 20 years. But
I have some stuff. What is it? I have a kit where you can clean vinyl and stuff like that on it.
I'm talking just the sleeves.
Just
The
sleeve
sleeves
itself,
are
yeah.
covered.
Oh, I was going to say, because
But-
you have mildew on the
Unfortunately,
vinyl.
there's really not a whole lot you can do for that.
No. But
You do have the sickness, Jim. If you're getting cleaning stuff with vinyl.
But
Yeah,
before we start,
you know what the name of the company is?
what?
What?
Big Fudge.
But before we start with the main event, I did, however, listen to my mother's old copy of Carole King's Tapestry on his 50th anniversary. I don't think a needle has touched that thing in over 40 years, and it sounds amazing. So, my mom actually took really good care of her records, because her Beatles records, which, while the sleeves are beat to shit, and I think that might be my fault, the records themselves actually sound pretty good.
What does she have?
I get Meet the Beatles, and I've got Rubber Soul.
So I'm gonna So Joe gets Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
Yep.
You get Meet the Beatles, and I got a dead mouse.
Oh, I got one of those too, Jim. Our cat show set finally earned her keep after 5 years and delivered a dead mouse to our bed this evening.
Well, she's still probably mad that you named her Socks.
Well, yeah.
Which
And Jim, I'm pretty sure my dad has a first pressing of Pet Sounds too. So
yeah, and I'm
Meanwhile,
sure Todd
little
probably
and
has
little
like
Deuce
that,
Coupe.
Yeah.
Todd probably has like that super rare Beatles, with the Beatles. Is it with the Beatles or Meet the Beatles? That's the really valuable one.
The one with the baby parts?
No, their first album that came out, there's a British version, there's an American version.
Okay.
I believe one is Meet the Beatles, one is With the Beatles.
Right.
Yeah.
With the Beatles is the British, and that was their second album on EMI.
Right.
Okay, but it's worth a lot. Like if you can find it.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm fairly certain.
Yeah, that Butcher cover, Yesterday and Today. You know about that, right? The plastered over Butcher cover with the dead baby parts, like Andy was saying.
Yeah.
Oh.
I have the album with the other cover, and I bought it for like $10, and I'm like, you know what? It's like a Willy Wonka golden ticket. If you like start to peel it a little bit, you're like, ooh, is this a Butcher cover? It wasn't.
Ah.
It's a good album.
Jeez.
Actually, it's a good representation of that period for the Beatles.
Yeah.
Yeah, but all of these up here that are framed are original pressings.
Nice.
Abbey Road. And anyway.
So, you're not here to hear us talk about our record collection. You're here us to talk about two of the grunge giants of 1991, Nirvana and Pearl Jam.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is going to be mentioned on our upcoming podcasts, where we discuss the music of 1991 and actually discussed both, in not as much depth as we're going to tonight, Nirvana's Nevermind and Pearl Jam's 10. And I took this to Twitter, actually. I put a little poll up to see which our fans were kind of a bigger advocate of. Nevermind beat it by 90% to 10% for 10. Kind of fitting. And
What?
I
Yeah.
have a feeling I think it's just
Is it the magnitude of the album?
I think that's what it is. It is. The way I look at it is that Nevermind really is the more, I don't want to say influential, but like you said, it's the biggest album.
Oh no, it's definitely more influential.
It's the most influential album, but for me, Pearl Jam 10 is the better album musically in terms of the depth of the music.
Well, they're both so dark. They're just so, it's so, like you said, it's just so representative of the end of the excess of the 80s.
The 80s, yeah.
Yeah.
And it just goes to these. the song In Bloom is about Kurt Cobain, because Kurt Cobain was picked on mercilessly in school. He's from Aberdeen, Washington, which is this big macho logging town, and he was picked on horribly.
Right.
And it's about all of a sudden, the people who used to pick on him were listening to his music, but they didn't know what the song, they don't know what it means.
Yeah.
They don't know. I mean, it's so introspect. Both of them, they're just so introspect and dark and semi-autobiographical, to be honest with you. I think that's my opinion. But
I think musically it really comes down to the 3-piece versus the 5-piece bands too. I think that, 10 is got a richer sound to it, whereas Nirvana is definitely a product of their influences more so than well, I mean, with Nirvana, it was very like Kurt Cobain was very upfront about saying that this album is heavily inspired by the sound of the Pixies.
Yep. And
you could tell that. It's just in the guitar, the bass riffs are very, very inspired by Kim Deal.
But even though Nevermind, Nevermind was their second album, and it definitely is a lot more. I mean, I listened to after I started listening to Nevermind and In Utero, I went back and listened to their first album,
Bleach,
and Nevermind is, while definitely a lot more produced, a lot more refined.
Yeah.
Than their first album. It's still, like you said, it's a function of the 3-piece band where they're still a very raw kind of. They still have a lot of that punk ethos to them, whereas I feel like 10 and Pearl Jam in general, musicianship wise, is a lot more. They're a lot better musicians in Pearl Jam than in Nirvana.
Well,
at least at the time.
Drumming, I don't know.
I mean, yeah, Dave Grohl is an amazing drummer.
I would say Dave Grohl is better than any drummer Pearl Jam has had. I mean, now they have Matt Cameron, who's been there for he's been there for a while. He's also Soundgarden's drummer. He's a monster too, but Dave Grohl is like a top 5 drummer.
Dave Grohl's a force of nature.
But you look at the guitar work, especially by McCready as the lead guitarist versus where Kurt Cobain is just doing power chords and again punk, that whole punk ethos that he has versus the more stylized playing of Mike McCready, and Stone Guzzard as the rhythm guitarist. So as Pearl Jam is a more cohesive unit than Nirvana was at the time.
Sure. When you look at both of these on the spectrum of grunge versus alt rock, college rock, things like that, Pearl Jam is leaning way more heavily grunge than the alternative rock Nirvana on this album.
I think Nirvana tends to lean more towards punk.
They make no bones about it.
Yeah, more of a punk punk roots than Pearl Jam. I think Pearl Jam would, if they were honest, they'd probably say, yeah, we're a rock and roll, we're a rock band.
Well, who's Eddie Vedder's biggest influence? He says it all the time. The Who.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's in The Who, and I mean, you can see it in 10. 10's more anthemic. Is that a word?
Yes, it is absolutely.
Okay, good, because I didn't want to sound like a schmo, but it's more anthemic, and it's just like The Who. Baba O'Reilly's this big anthemic song, Won't Get Fooled Again. You can hear that in 10. It's talking about dark stuff, which, hey, let's face facts, so did The Who.
Right.
The Who talked about a lot of dark stuff too, but Kurt Cobain came out and said, he goes, we want to be a combination of the Beatles and the Pixies. So you know what? I saw a really good comparison. It actually made a lot of sense. It was like, if you're a Beatles fan, you tend to be a McCartney or a Lennon fan. So the people who like Pearl Jam would be the McCartney fans because it's tightly arranged. It's again anthemic. It's melodic. It's a good piece of music if you like.
It's accessible. It's accessible to a wider audience.
Lennon is much more. They're both. He's dark, but it's more introspect. It's more self-depreciating.
It's more
taking a swipe at society. Not that 10 doesn't.
It's more raw, and you can see that on Plastic Ono Band with Mother. Like he just lets it all out. Primal Screams, And that is exactly what this album is for Kurt Cobain, to let it all out.
Yeah.
And he really did. And, you know, we've talked about just, I'm not surprised, Andy, with the results of the poll. This album transcended genres, right? Where this one, 10 really didn't. You know, if you were into this kind of music, you liked this band. Nirvana was everywhere. You can go find a Nirvana shirt at Kohl's right now, and you'll see, you know, teenage girls wearing a Nirvana shirt, and they have no idea who Nirvana is.
Right.
They're a pop culture phenomenon, is what it is. You know?
Exactly.
Well, I think it's not only that it transcends. I mean, it created a genre.
Yeah.
I mean, it is the nexus point.
You kind of thinking about it, you can kind of see, even though both albums can be credited with laying the foundations for the grunge era, you know, at least for music for the next 3 years, you can kind of see like two divergent paths for the music.
Yeah.
You know, like you can say like Pearl Jam leads directly into like Stone Temple Pilots and that form of hard rock.
There was a bunch of Eddie Vedder clones.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas Pearl Jam kind of leads into like Alice in Chains and in 9 Inch Nails, and that kind of leads down that path, I think.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if 9 Inch Nails is more industrial, but I mean, it's dark.
Yeah, but that kind of thematic in terms of thematic, you know, songwriting and stuff like that.
Yeah. And it's interesting too. As crazy it is to believe that Pretty Hate Machine is actually 2 years older than Nevermind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
everyone forgets that it came out in 1989.
It did, but again, even though Trent Reznor had been around for a while, Nevermind opened up a whole world of music that was basically underground up until that point. You know, and it made it okay to like grunge and alt rock, and you were no longer the weird kid at school because you liked listening to the Pixies or Susie and the Banshees and that.
Nevermind was an antidote, especially at that time. And while I think we talk about when you listen to the podcast, when it gets released, once I'm done editing it, the 1991 is a weird year because it's like the charts, like the what is popular, didn't actually reflect what was going on within the music industry itself and what was becoming more prevalent. And that's it's been said 1,000 times before that Nevermind effectively took hair metal out into the woods, told it, "Hey, look down there," and then shot it in the back of the head.
And I made this point during the podcast, and I'll make it again. The first half of 1991 were the 80s clinging onto the cliff barely hanging onto the cliff with their white knuckling with their nails. And Nevermind came along and just pushed Ralphie down the chute, put like Santa pushing Ralphie down the chute. That was Nevermind to the 80s. It's like, we're done with you.
You know a little bit about that, Andy?
Oh, yes, I very much do. I kicked many kids in the face last year.
But yeah, like you said, the 80s were still hanging on. Nevermind came along. It's just like, it was so different to everything that had come before.
Yeah.
But I've always wondered, what is it about that record? Like what, I mean, it's a great record. I'm not taking a shot at it. I mean,
it comes down, honestly, it begins and ends with Smells Like Teen Spirit. I think Teen Spirit is, it's you mentioned it being anthemic. It is an anthem. It is an anthem about the weird kids in high school like myself that were trying to desperately get their best friends to listen to this cool alternative music, and they're like, "Nah, Danger's got some new stuff out."
You know what part of it is. You know what part of it is too is like, for our generation, Jim, Andy, and I, the 80s were
young ones like Todd.
Yeah, the 80s were such.
Not you.
The 80s were supposedly such a time of hope and optimism, and then the end of the 80s was like the end of the Cold War. The wall came down, and then 1990 came along, and then the Gulf War, and then 1991, and Gen X was like, something's not right. This is all kind of turning into bullshit, and then we just and what Nevermind was it made us see that everything that came before was it was just superficial bullshit.
Well, I mean, I don't listen. I mean, okay. I mean, from nostalgia reasons, I do like a lot of the hair metal bands.
Yeah.
Oh, I love. Don't get me. I'm like the number one.
Well, one of your favorite bands is Def Leppard.
Def Leppard. I love the '80s, but I'm just saying in terms of like society overall. One of the reasons that Nevermind broke through was it peeled back the superficiality of society up to that point.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it also had a lot to do with the fact that it got to the point where hair metal was so formulaic. I mean,
it was
by
so cliche.
by the time you guys are talking about, hanging on the precipice, that's cherry pie.
Yeah.
Hanging from the cliff. But there was like 15 bands who, if you lined them up next to each other, you wouldn't know if it's Stryper or Trickster or, they put out the same music. It was the same record over and over and over again. They just got so formulaic and boring. I think that
hair metal became a parody of itself, is what it was. It was.
Well, it got to the point. It just got oversaturated. There was just too much of it. I mean, and it just the excess of the '80s were over.
Yeah,
you said.
But it's interesting that you say that, because being a little bit younger, coming toward the tail, I remember listening to this album with my brothers. Like, I remember listening to both. I bought both of these at Spags when Spags was selling.
You didn't get a bag, did you?
Nope. No, I had to pay with cash too. Yep. So
yeah,
I coming to the tail end of grunge, that formulaic nature was also there in grunge. So I think that's just the cyclical nature of musical styles.
But grunge didn't last as long.
No,
that's true.
And you know what? And to me, it was much more. It had more of a groove. It was more soulful. There was a lot more to it than hair metal, because it still had. I mean, if you were a fan of hair metal, it still had dirty, grungy guitars. It had, if you like that driving
distortion,
distortion, had all of it.
Right,
just didn't last.
Grunge,
grunge
you get butt rock though, which I.
Like the Creeds and the
Creed, Nickelback. Yep. Out of grunge. That's unacceptable.
But the thing I can appreciate about grunge in general, especially with bands like Nirvana and Pearl Jam, is that they really wore their influences on their sleeve. And that, again, something I don't really ever feel like, you ask any hair metal band, who are their influences? Jim,
Kiss, Van Halen, Led Zeppelin.
Yep, that's it. Kraftwerk.
I don't know.
But there was
Def Leppard was open about their glam rock out.
Well, they were. It's tough to really classify them as hair, because they found that market. They were glam. They were more.
Oh yeah, they were glam. Yeah, they were.
Glam
metal, I guess.
You know what their heading usually is, though? New wave of British heavy metal.
Yeah.
Second wave.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous, but
yeah.
Whatever.
But with bands like Nirvana and Pearl Jam, I mean, you've got so many different influences. You can tell the Pixies influences in Nirvana. You can tell the Dinosaur Jr. influences in Nirvana. You don't see, and with Pearl Jam, I mean, they might even be more eclectic, because you mentioned the Who. They're very
The Who, Zeppelin, Hendrix. They like funk.
Oh God! Tell me Mike McCready doesn't whip out a Hendrix riff at least once every song.
Well, I mean, for God's sakes, Yellow Ledbetter. I'm surprised the Hendrix Foundation didn't sue them for that.
Or Black.
That opening. But I mean, and I love the song, but I mean, it sounds like Little Wing. It sounds like the beginning of Little Wing. I mean, they changed the chord up a little bit, but I've actually heard enough bootlegs where he does a solo. He does the opening chords to Little Wing and then goes right into Yellow Ledbetter. I mean, it's that close. But Jimi Hendrix was from Seattle,
right?
So,
now one thing I want to point out about both these albums, and it's a point that Todd had brought up about Nevermind. Both of these albums have the perfect side one. Both of the first side of these albums could both be considered just their greatest hits.
Yeah.
Well, if you go to like a Pearl Jam show, I mean, I don't know how many huge Pearl Jam fans there are listening, but I mean, they do. If they're in town 2 nights and you look at their set lists, they're pretty different.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I mean, in most cases, you will get the most songs off Black off of
10.
10 than you will anything. And the two songs that they will always play are Alive and Even Flow. You very rarely do you see them not play those two songs.
Right.
You know.
Right. But like, Jeremy was a much bigger hit than I think it had any right to be in terms of just radio play, because it is an insanely dark song. It's got some of my favorite bass licks from this era. But Black is like a covert radio hit. That
Black
didn't
was
get
actually
a video. As far as I'm aware, didn't get a video.
No, there's an official video on YouTube, but
no, they did Jeremy, Even Flow, and Alive. I think are both concert.
Right. Well, Jeremy was the only
Jeremy's
thing they actually did as an actual like, hey, we're gonna film actors doing things now, and that weird close up of Eddie's face.
Yeah, well, he wasn't too happy doing that video. He pissed around about it. He took the money, but he wasn't
like
happy about it.
Once is a great. We talked about Smells Like Teen Spirit being a perfect opening for an album. Once.
Oh, I mean, like I said, when I was in college, when I started playing guitar in college, it's like you had to learn the opening riff to "Smell Like Teen Spirit."
Yeah.
You had to learn that. That was like it's the perfect 4-bar opening.
Yeah. And I'm not gonna lie to you, Joe. Right now, "Come As You Are," the bass line is in my list of practice songs for bass, and it's fun. That and actually in Bloom as well.
Yeah,
both really fun. And Chris Novoselic is like, he's not a spectacular bassist. He's not Flea or a Les Claypool or anything, but he holds it together. He holds the two ends, these two forces of nature, Dave Grohl and Kurt Cobain, together.
Yeah,
and
it's
the mark of a good bassist.
It's not his fault. He's the middle of that, rock to legend sandwich, right? With Kurt Cobain, the star that burned out too soon, and then Dave Grohl, who is the best drummer of this generation, the
MVP of rock and roll, pretty much.
Right now,
right now,
not even close.
The Foo Fighters are the only band keeping rock and roll alive right now.
Well, Foo Fighters, like every time there's an awards show, Foo Fighters, they're your go-to rock band. Yeah. And even Dave Grohl said it in an interview. He's like, we were going to these award shows and we were realizing it's like, we're the only rock band. There's boy bands, girl bands, R&B bands, solo artists. We're the only rock band.
Right.
The new album came. We were all talking about it, the other day. New album just came out. It will be nominated.
He's on this album. He's on this album.
Yeah, he is.
He is.
Well, he also plays Satan in The Pick of Destiny too.
Amazing.
But and that's the beauty too, is that I think for Dave Grohl, because the other thing too is that he really is. He's a personality. He's become that dude who can just show up. Like, he can show up in an SNL skit, having nothing to do with anything else for the entire show. They just need some guy to play drums, and he's going to be that guy.
Well, he's insanely talented.
Yeah. How many times have they brought him onto the Muppets to play drums?
Yeah. Right now, you can say he's like the best ambassador. He's the best ambassador that rock and roll has.
Yeah.
That challenge he did with Tandy Newton, that little girl, that drum challenge that he did with her. How many how many views did that get? And it just it rode, and she rode that wave. Hey, Dave Grohl wants to challenge me to a drum off. Okay, type of thing.
Yeah.
Well, the interesting paradox is, Nevermind is really dark, and Utero is even worse.
Oh God, yeah.
Utero is.
It's like Utero is the suicide note.
Easily.
Really is.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
The Foo Fighters are fun. Like they're a fun. They're just. It's like they're just. You just have a better time listening to them than you do.
Right. You don't sit there questioning life after listening to the Foo Fighters.
No, I think Dave. But it's interesting too, because I think Dave Grohl had a better upbringing than Kirk. Kurt Cobain's upbringing is. Did anybody watch that montage of Heck?
Yeah.
Seen it.
It's on HBO Max. It is a documentary about the life of Kurt Cobain. But what they did was they took all of his like his drawings and his, Courtney Love, I think, had a lot to do with it. I mean, she must have had them, and she turned them over to HBO. And what they do is they take these drawings and they animate them and they bring it to life. And it's actually a very good documentary about Kurt Cobain. And you get like the real understanding as to why he wrote the lyrics he did and he created the music that he did. He really, everybody says, oh, he was a phony. He didn't, this was an image. I don't think so. I know
he was really a tortured soul.
Right.
He didn't like, and they're showing him, and it's home movies of Kurt Cobain and Courtney Love with their daughter, and I mean, he's gaunt and he's got sores all over him, and they're clearly both addicts at this point.
Yeah,
and he's talking, and he's with his daughter, and he doesn't even look happy there, really, and it's just you could just tell that, if you had not known him or you knew what was going to happen leading up to it, it wouldn't have shocked you. I mean, but it all comes out in the music, And another thing. Oh, I'm sorry, Todd. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, when it comes to these two albums and what they did for alternative music in general, whether it's grunge, whether it's punk inspired or anything like that, looking at the credits on these albums, it is produced by Rick Parashar and Pearl Jam.
Right.
Produced by Butch Vig and Nirvana, right?
Mm-hmm.
They took a more active role in their own production, and I don't know if that had been done in alternative music before.
Well, no, that's kind of the ethos, isn't that like one of the big ethos of alt music, and particularly in grunge, is that the bands want more control. The bands want more say in the music that they put out, because they don't want to, they don't want to be quote unquote commercialized. They want to put the music out and have it be successful, but they want it to be their music, not what some record executives saying should be on the album.
And I'm sure that these bands took a role in that, but they were not usually credited on the back of the album.
Right.
I know that when REM went to Warner Brothers, they negotiated that creative control into their contract and took a little less money to do so. And it's just really interesting on like Sub Pop and Epic, that these labels would give these relatively young bands actual production credit on these. I think that's pretty that's pretty rare in this time period.
Well, and then Dave Grohl took it a step further when he made the Foo Fighters.
It was just him.
Yeah. But I mean, I believe he has always had his own. They've always done whatever they wanted to do. Mm-hmm. I don't think the record company. I think they were on Roswell for a while, which was Dave Grohl's own company.
Yeah, which is and you think about how many hit singles each album put out, which goes to show the power of the artist knowing, okay, these are the songs that we should, put the focus on and stuff like that.
It's funny. With somebody we were talking about. It's an interesting point that Todd brings up about the production, is because Pearl Jam hated the production value for 10. They hated it. Really? To the point where they actually brought in Brendan O'Brien to remix it. And then they released it. So you get the first copy of it, and then you get the Brendan O'Brien mix. And the Brendan O'Brien, I mean, it's the same songs. I mean, it's not like it'd be like a side-by-side comparison. And the Brendan O'Brien stuff is much, much better. It's just tighter. It sounds better. The guitars pop at you a little bit more. They hated it. And it's amazing because that record sold, 10 obviously sold.
Oh, gold. I mean, it went gold a couple times over, didn't it?
Oh, it went platinum.
It's platinum a couple times over.
Platinum is actually better than gold for some.
Yeah.
In the music industry. So.
Well, but there was an interesting thing that jumped out at me with these two records, is that the follow-ups, like, what is it? Nevermind outsold 10 by leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
I mean, it crushed it. Versus killed in utero.
Yeah.
Yes.
In terms of sales. And then, obviously, that was it with Nirvana. We don't know what would have happened, but I think the public might have been flipping more towards Pearl Jam, because the next 4 albums, are all multi-platinum records.
Yeah, this is 13 times platinum, 13 million, and this is 30 million.
Right.
Jesus. Well, I remember that. I remember when Versus came out because there was such anticipation for Versus, whereas In Utero came out end of the summer, and I think people were just a little burned out from Nirvana, just in general. And I think that
also the market was starting to get glutted too. The grunge market. By the time In Utero came out, the grunge market was really kind of started a little cluttered, and people were starting to splinter off into their own like separate camps of what they wanted to listen to. Versus, Nirvana is great, but hey, you know what? I got this new Alice in Chains, maybe I want to listen to, or Stone Temple Pilots. Oh, I want to listen to them, type of thing.
Stone Temple Pilots. I mean, the weird thing
they're not technically considered grunge.
They're technically grunge, but let's be honest with them, they were able to finally break that mold by Songs from the Vatican gift shop.
Yeah.
Yeah, by that point, Purple and what was the first one?
Core.
Great albums, but they had the misfortune of being released while grunge was still a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Pearl Jam was able to get away from the grunge thing. Now they are your reliable, they're your Fenway Park band. They are your reliable dudes who love good rock and roll band. Like Jim. Jim is the biggest Pearl Jam fan I know. And that's honestly, it's not a bad, obviously it's not a bad thing. It's just, it's interesting that they have such a following that they get documentaries made about them by Cameron Crowe, like actual well-regarded filmmakers are making documentaries about them.
Well, they're very accessible though too. I mean that it was tough to get an interview with Kurt Cobain.
Well, that's the other thing too, is that, like you said, they're very accessible because Eddie Vedder, for the most part, comes off as just another one of the guys.
Yeah,
the guy's a huge baseball fan. He loves baseball. He loves the Seattle Mariners.
Cubs.
He comes off like the other guy. Nothing. I mean, Kurt Cobain's a great artist, but he comes off as
tortured.
Well, not just tortured, but just like in a condescending, not accessible, condescending, like you don't understand my art kind of way.
Yeah,
the snooty, like
the
tortured artist.
Type.
Yeah. Whereas Eddie's like, he's talented. He knows what he's doing. But he just comes off like somebody you could walk up to and say, "Hey, how you doing?" He'd be like, "Hey, how you doing, man? Great. No, enjoy the show." Type of thing.
Right.
But that Eddie Vedder has worked very hard to change that image because for a very long time he was very anti-establishment. I mean, they had that big fight with Ticketmaster.
Well, it's not I'm not saying like that he's not. I'm not talking about that. It's just from a fan point of view. That like he's accessible. He feels like he's accessible to the fans because he feels like he's one of the fans, whereas Kurt Cobain tries to separate himself from everybody and like he tries to be above everybody else.
Right.
And I think Pearl Jam is really good about marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think they realized they had a niche. They had like that communal thing that the Grateful Dead and Fish and Dave Matthews have. So every concert has its own. They
tape trading.
What's that?
Tape trading.
Yeah, but it's not just that. The artwork, like the Fenway Park show, that I went to, has its own poster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's its own poster, its own shirts. Every venue gets its own shirt. Different, they contract local artists to create for every single solitary concert that they do. They have like the thing I have hanging in my living room.
Yeah.
It's from Vancouver. And they do that. So they have like that thing going where the special T-shirts and the merchandising and stuff like that. I mean, they're very smart about how they merchandise. And they said, you know what? We're just going to put all of our concerts on the Nugs app, or you can get all the bootlegs. So they are, in terms of marketing, they were brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jim, very, very accessible band, very accessible artists.
Jim,
do y'all remember like
Pearl Jam
20 years ago when Pearl Jam started releasing like
twice.
To just kind of like combat bootlegs, they actually released a ton of their concerts. Like you could get them through Columbia House, and I got one from Milan, Italy. Yeah, they would release something like 20 different concerts, and each one has a different like the actual playlist is different on each of them.
It's like the brown paper sleeves.
Yeah, exactly.
They're great. They sound
It's
amazing.
somewhere in my CD cabinet.
If you get the Nugs, and I don't even know if this is legal to do, but there's an app called Nugs.
Yeah.
It's like $80 a year, and it has live concerts from tons of bands. Two in particular, that's the reason why I get it is Pearl Jam and Metallica.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they've probably got close to 500 Pearl Jam shows. And just like you were talking, if you click on, it goes by year. If you click on 2016 and, Fenway Park, you click on it, it's got the artwork and it's got the playlist but they're very smart about that. They realize they have like a Grateful Dead like thing going. So
Yeah, it's been cultivated, which is, really admirable.
Yeah. So we just got a message here from longtime listener, first time caller Kurt, who mentions late to the party. It's nice to join when you all are talking about Pearl Jam. Yes, we are digging deep, Kurt, into the Pearl Jam stuff right now.
mm-hmm.
All right, so you know what? Getting back to the two albums that we essentially have on our YouTube cover right now, let me ask you guys, outside of the hits for either album, what is your favorite song? Like your favorite deep track from Nevermind and from 10?
Oh, wow.
Does Black count as a hit?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's on the
Yeah.
radio all the time.
That is my
It is a
favorite
covert radio hit. I already went over that.
Damn it.
It was ranked. It was at Rolling Stone or one of those magazines actually, did the top 50 Pearl Jam songs of all time, and Black was one.
Yeah.
All right. Fair enough.
You know what's funny though? You mentioned Black. When I was listening to this the other day on my turntable, and I'm like, Black is playing, and it finished. I'm like, oh, I gotta go turn the record over now. It's like, wait a minute, Jeremy's right after this?
Yeah.
What
Because
an
the long
amazing
songs
first side of a record.
But the longer songs are on the other side. Like Porch is a deep track on 10.
Yeah.
It's longer, I should say.
Yeah.
For my favorite, for 10, my favorite is probably Garden. That is
Garden's a good one.
Garden's good, especially when they do it live. It's really good.
Yeah. Okay. I gotta go with Release. I think it's just a beautiful way of closing out an album. It really is.
Yeah, I gotta go with Andy on that one. That one's that's a good way to finish the album.
They open half of their shows with it.
It's kind of ironic that
They open. I can show you. They
show.
open a lot of their shows. It's either that or it's Go, but in most cases it's Release.
Okay. Todd.
Oceans.
Ocean's a great song too.
Yep.
It is.
And on Nevermind, thinking about album closers, Something in the Way.
you got mine. Yeah.
That's
And it's just so crazy. Andy, you mentioned it earlier. The side one of both of these albums could be a greatest hits.
Yeah.
Nirvana was the very first band that clicked for me, and I would sit there and listen to the CD over and over again. And I was like, yeah, and these first 6 songs are some of their most well-known songs.
Yeah.
That is absolutely insane. It's for a sophomore album, it doesn't matter. It's a testament to the songwriting of this band. And 10 is the same way. That first side of 10, it's filled with mainstream radio hits.
Right. And the funny thing is that Why Go doesn't feel like it's out of place if you're talking about like their hits. It feels like it flows. It felt like at some point that was on the radio in regular rotation on like, WFNX or something, I think for myself, for Nevermind, On a Plane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like
that.
It
really hits all the Nirvana beats. But I just love I love how it ends. I just love it's
got that Pixie bass
type of.
It's got that Pixies bass line that you like too, though.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Sucker for a bass line, man.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Jim?
Something in the Way.
Yeah, it's my favorite too. It's my favorite non-hit song.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. I mean, the thing with Nevermind is the problem is they're Nirvana's catalog is so small. I mean, which is a testament to their ability. I mean, like Todd said, it's a greatest hits. They got 3 albums, like 3 studio records, and you still hear stuff off of Bleach, their first record, but I mean, except for very few songs, they're all on the radio. They all get some radio play.
Right. It's interesting too because Nirvana's box set, there are so many like demos and so many things from Sub Pop pre Geffen, and it's like I tried. It's just like some of the stuff is just unlistenable.
Yeah, well, I mean, they talk about it like they said when they sent their tape to Butch Vig.
Yeah,
Butch Vig listened to it, and he went, "Wow, there's something here, but God, this recording sucks. We got to do something about this." And he always says to what drew him was not the lyrics. He goes, "It was the drumming." He goes, "It's the opening drum line to Smells Like Teen Spirit," and he goes, he was hooked. He goes because Dave Grohl was the fifth drummer of Nirvana. He is, and they redid every track on. I think the only one he didn't do, I think, is Lithium, maybe. But I think he redid everything else. But he's the fifth drummer, so I mean, a lot of people credit. I mean, I know it's Kurt Cobain and it's his lyrics and it's the angst and but they said when Dave Grohl got into the band, they said he drove them because all of a sudden you've got a
powerhouse,
a true virtuoso at his instrument, and
at 20 years old or whatever he was.
He was obscenely young.
Dave?
22.
Dave, I think he's only a year older than us.
Dave's like 2 years older than us. Yeah, he's a couple years older than us. He was really young. What is it? Because Kurt Cobain and Chris Novoselic were 4 years older than he was.
Right.
And he was a baby.
Yeah, I know. But it is funny though to think too that after Kurt killed himself, I was super worried that Dave Grohl was like, oh man, I feel bad for Kurt's family. I feel worse for Dave Grohl. What's gonna happen to that dude?
Yeah.
Dude.
I think he turned out all right.
On the post-it note of drummers that were able to succeed past their successful band.
Yeah, he didn't drum.
No.
Well, it's a credit to him that he's just a great all-around musician.
Yeah.
He's Nirvana's drummer, but he can play guitar. He can compose a song. He can.
He was a spot in the Heartbreakers.
Yeah.
He got off. Yeah, he was offered the job, and he said he actually talks about it in the interview. And he goes, I had Tom Petty on the phone, and I go, oh God, it's like, oh, I can't believe it. No, Tom, I can't. Right. Oh God, and he's putting on the phone. He's like, oh, I just did it. Well, I guess I'm in it now. And he played every instrument on the first record, and then he brought people in, but he played everything.
Yeah,
right.
And then you find out for The Color and the Shape, they had brought on a drummer, and he played on the record. This guy named William Goldsmith, who was with Nate Mendel in what was the name of the band? Sunny Day Real Estate. And they broke up, and Dave went to the concert, heard they were breaking up, and cornered those two and said, "Listen, I'm putting a band together. I really like you two. You're a good rhythm section. Would you, And they said, "Of course." And this was after he made the first record, but then they talk about the unbelievable pressure it is to be the drummer for the Foo Fighters because the lead singer and the guitarist is a better drummer than you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what happened was, and this is for The Color and the Shape, they laid all the tracks down, and then Dave heard the drums and went, oh, and he redid it all himself. And then they told the drummer, listen, going forward, you will be our touring drummer. Dave's like, but I'm going to be playing the drums.
Right.
He said, he goes, it's nothing to do with you. He goes, I just have a sound that I have in my head with the drums. And,
but then you put in Taylor Hawkins, who's an amazing drummer.
Awesome drummer.
Right?
Taylor Hawkins is essentially split. He's like genetically just split off from Dave Grohl. They're the same person.
His solo album
drummer though,
really good. Check out his solo album.
But it's funny because I had totally forgotten about Sunny Day Real Estate. And the only reason why I know about them is there's a song in the Batman Forever soundtrack that was part of the inspired by portion of the soundtrack.
Yeah,
I totally forgotten that Nate Mendel was on that.
Yeah, they were kind of like a second rate. They were okay, but I mean,
they were
part of that scene, but they just never popped.
Right.
We
They
should talk
wanted
about that
FTP,
soundtrack.
They were a Jawbox.
Yeah.
And Kurt here brings up that the drums on Nevermind are amazing and a testament to the drum sound that came from recording at Sound City.
Yes. Yup.
It really it is funny because I almost kind of want to go. I want to listen to the drum tracks on Nevermind isolated, just to hear.
I'm sure you could do that on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
Sure you could. Do anything on YouTube. Heck, we have a show on YouTube. You can do anything on
You can do
YouTube.
anything.
You can do whatever you want on YouTube. They let us on. I mean,
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, I just love listening to. I mean, these just albums, 30 years later, have not only have they held up, they don't sound like they came from 30 years ago at all.
No.
I can play these, and Joe, Jim, you got teenagers. Yeah, Todd, your daughter's just
You're not there yet, Todd.
son. But yeah, but are you guys having are you finding it hard do your kids like what you listen to, or?
they are forced to listen to Pearl Jam.
Well, yeah.
So they like it enough.
Okay.
Like, they know all the songs.
The kids tolerate it when when they're in the car with me and they listen
All right.
to music.
My kids don't really, and I guess this is where I failed. They're not really into anything.
No. Well, actually,
You know what it is my daughter right now, she's still kind of trying to find her thing. I didn't find my music, I didn't find music until I was like 13, 14.
Yeah.
So
I
she's only
remember-
12.
Right. But I remember being 11, 12 years old and knowing what I liked for music and just I needed music in my life at that point. I found that I introduced my kids to the Foo Fighters and they loved the Foo Fighters. Absolutely, play another song. And I'm like, well, if you like that, let's listen to Nevermind. And my daughter responds really well to heavier music. She likes listening to it. If I'm playing it, she'll come down and she'll just be like, she'll start like air guitaring and stuff. And if I get her to pick up the bass that I got, then maybe she
look at him go. Look at him go.
Slap the bass.
He ain't doing the 80s thumb whacker though. So
that is really hard to do, by the way.
I don't know. I tried
It's a combination of pulling on the string, whacking it with your thumb, and hitting it on the pickup all at the same time.
Andy's Guitar Tips brought to you by Master.
You want more lessons like this? Don't forget to subscribe.
Oh, by the way, I prefer 10.
Yes, that was going to be our next question. So you
Interesting.
prefer 10?
I wouldn't have guessed that at all.
Well, wake up, Todd.
Yeah.
But I consider myself a real music fan, and I would never say 10 is more monumental or important than
No,
Nevermind.
it's
Right.
not.
Nevermind is one of the 5 most important records ever.
Mm.
Ever. With Pet Sounds, Led Zeppelin 1, Thriller. Led Zeppelin 1 isn't one of it. You know what I mean? Led Zeppelin 4, or, like some of these other, some of these, Sgt. Pepper. I mean, it's right up there.
Yep.
I mean, it
Yeah.
really is. I mean,
You can say that Nevermind changed music when it came out.
Right.
It really did.
That's an understatement. I mean,
It doesn't begin to cover it, but it changed music.
Right. It essentially normalized the genre and kicked the door open for more of it to come.
it did too. If you think about it too, I mean, a lot of the bands that started getting airplay would never have got airplay on.
No.
Except around here, BCN. BCN flipped their formats a million times. FNX.
It would have been on
FNX.
FNX.
We definitely do them.
But you think AAF is playing Nine Inch Nails?
No. If it wasn't for Nirvana and Nevermind, no way.
None of that stuff.
Yeah, AAF would have never played. Yeah, exactly. And it's more like because of Nevermind, Pearl Jam gets played. And they get played on. BCN would have eventually come around to Pearl Jam had it not been for Nevermind. AAF would have never jumped on that train.
No.
Not in a million years.
I don't think so. I don't know. I mean, AAF by the end, they were playing. They probably were. I think they were playing everything at that point because they were dying
They
out.
had no choice.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But
but both of those. I mean, Nevermind opened up the doors and broadened everybody's horizons. I mean,
Yeah.
it's funny. I'll even say it too. I mean, Andy knows my tastes were this in high school. It was Led Zeppelin and then Def Leppard, and Andy saying there's a lot more out there. You should be listening to this and this. I'd be like, shut up, man. Do they have a whammy bar in their guitar? No, ain't listening. And but Nevermind comes out.
yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. And then, and it wasn't even Teen Spirit. It was Come As You Are.
Yeah.
And it was stuff like that, like something like that was just completely offbeat.
Mm-hmm.
And then that is what starts to kind of, for me anyways, broadens my scope out. I go from just rock to anything.
Right. I think picking an album for myself, I feel like I get more wrapped up in 10. Like Nirvana, Nevermind I've listened to so much, I can kind of passively listen to it right now, and I can't kind of let it wrap its arms around me the same way I can with 10. Jim, when you gave me that copy of 10, I put it on the turntable. I think I had like an hour and a half left of work, and I was just like in that zone. I was just in that sweet spot the music's supposed to take you to. And Nirvana is just, I can drive and I can listen to all Nirvana. I can sing along with it. I have a great time. I love the album. But Pearl Jam is that active listening. That whole reason why we listen to records is for that active listening experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. Todd, did you say which one you liked more? Cut him out.
I will.
Cut his mic.
I will say that 10 has more depth, like you said, Andy. It's more of an active listening. It's more of an experience at this point. I've heard this album so much in my life that it is just is it
a Desert Island record for you?
No, it's not a Desert Island. Neither of these are Desert Island records for me, unfortunately. But Nevermind is just it's an old friend that you can pick up and just have a conversation with, and that's the way I feel about it.
Yeah,
but 10 does have more depth. I will give it that.
Okay. Joe,
I got to go with 10. It's and it's not a knock against Nevermind. I mean, I enjoyed it when it first came out, but for me, 10 is so much more accessible to me, and it's such a much more enjoyable listen than Nevermind is.
What gets me about 10 is it's not only like you talked about, Andy. It's like the experience of listening to it, and when you listen to the lyrics and you read the lyrics and you're trying to make sense of what he's trying to talk about. It's not only that. A lot of the B-sides that didn't make that record get heavy rotation. It was that good. State of Love and Trust is my favorite Pearl Jam song.
Oh,
that came off of the 10 sessions. It didn't make it onto the record. They finally put it on the single soundtrack. That song didn't make it on the record.
Which is a beautiful soundtrack, by the way.
I've got it on vinyl. Believe me, it's one of the first things I bought. Love it. Again, the Vikstrom sickness, God blast it. But that song, and you guys know it, right? I mean, you know Stay Alive and Try.
Yeah.
It's my favorite Pearl Jam song. Mm-hmm. It didn't make it. Yellow Ledbetter didn't make it onto that record.
Right.
So when you're talking about depth,
that shows the depth that they had. I love In Utero, but that's it, right? And I honestly, I do think that their Unplugged in New York is Nirvana's crowning achievement.
Yeah.
Musically. I love them, right? Their Bowie cover, their Meat Puppets cover.
God, yeah.
It's unbelievable. And it came out after Kurt Cobain died. So I feel like
it did? It did?
Yeah.
It did,
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it came out like that fall.
Okay. Yeah, because he died in April.
He died the day before my sister's birthday because I got a phone call from my sister saying, "This is the worst birthday ever."
Yeah. It was like, it was definitely, it was April, right? It was like April 4th or something like that. But
So what Nirvana burned so bright for such a short amount of time, and you have Dave Grohl's legacy to really bridge the gap between that. But Pearl Jam is still going strong. Gigaton is a great album. Lightning Bolt was a great album. Those came out this decade, right? In the past decade.
Yeah.
And that is a real testament to their staying power, their popularity, their songwriting, their overall sound. Like, if you're asking me which band I would probably listen to their whole catalog more, it would be Pearl Jam. Obviously, there's more to choose from.
I'll say, I mean, Pearl Jam would take you 10 times longer, but
right.
I mean, Pearl Jam has, like Joe was saying, I mean, their musical chops are, and so, I mean, I can't tell you how many covers they do. I mean, they do everything from, they did Kiss's Black Diamond. I mean, that's, that's,
and they did it better than Kiss.
Wow, that's saying a lot.
Hard to do.
Yeah, I know. Seriously.
Two monkeys banging rocks together can do it better than Kiss.
Joe, I got news for you. The Gin Blossoms version of Christine 16 is better than Kiss.
Yeah, no, I'll give you that, Andy. I'm not arguing that point with you.
Road's Death in Role Models. Let's go. It's amazing.
What? Oh, you know what they did? If you, I got to play it for you guys. When we, when COVID's over, they do a cover of Whip It. It was a Halloween show, and it was an encore, and they all came walking out in the Devo outfits, and they did Whip It, and it kills. It's awesome. It's so good. It was, but it was
wrong.
That's pretty much what it sounded like, but it was really good. It was really good. They can do anything. I mean.
The only song Pearl Jam has put out that got heavy radio play that I just either would just want to curb stomp myself or just put the brakes on completely with Pearl Jam is Last Kiss.
What is it?
Huh?
Oh, Last Kiss.
Yeah.
That's a cover. That's not even their song.
I know that. I'm just saying that got such, like, 1990, the summer of 1999, that was like every third song. Like on WFNX.
It was number one. It was a number I believe it was a number one hit.
And here's Andy's feet.
It is the one song by them I will pass by. I mean, and for me, that's
saying a lot.
That is saying a lot. Someone like me who was fanatical.
I definitely need to listen to more Pearl Jam. It's just one of those things that after I'm done, like, imbuing myself in all things 1991, I'm just keep that going for a bit.
Well, on our first Vinyl and Brown Liquor Club meeting, we can have a theme, and maybe I'll play a little Pearl Jam that you haven't heard. I might do that.
No, that would be awesome. That would be awesome.
You could just share your Nugs login with the rest of us. That would be good too.
That would be illegal.
Yeah.
Would it though?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Hypothetically.
So
hypothetically.
All right. So it's Pearl Jam 10-1, 3-1 rather.
I mean, for me, yeah.
Yeah.
Just call it my generation. Sorry, guys.
There's no wrong. There really is no wrong answer with it. I mean, there's not a bad word has been said about either album. So
no.
Yeah, I feel pretty good about that.
No.
So
I mean, like I said, we're not denying that Nevermind was such a pivotal album. I mean, don't deny that
it's a great record. It's a great record. I mean, it is an astounding record.
Mm-hmm.
But
I mean, yeah.
Listen,
I'm trying, but I'm a Pearl Jam fanatic. So what am I going to do?
Fine. That's fine. All right, gentlemen. Well, thank you so much, and thank you everybody for watching. Kurt, thanks for joining in on the chat today.
Yeah, Kurt.
So the four of us host a little podcast called Geek Salad. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts, whatever pod chaser you get them through. You can also follow us on the socials on Twitter at Geek Salad Radio, and on Facebook at Geek Salad Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. That way you can get pretty much every two shows a week now, unless there's scheduling issues. One, we do a retro movie, and then we do retro records. I'm deciding what we're going to do next week, so we got to figure that out.
We have that spreadsheet, that glorious spreadsheet.
Yeah.
We do have that glorious spreadsheet now. We put together a Google sheet.
Who did a better
all the albums we
version?
want to discuss?
Who did a better version of How Deep Is Your Love, Tavares or the Bee Gees? That's appointment watching.
Yeah. So, thank you so much for joining us, and until next time, I'm Andy.
I'm Joe.
I'm Todd.
I'm Jim.
Go forth and be nerd.